there's millions of people around the world that recognize that there could be a problem, that they could be, moving towards their ideal body weight, that maybe they have some type of addictive eating habits, maybe they're not exercising enough, maybe they could take steps to improve the quality of their life, right? So they know it. Yeah. From an intellectual perspective, it makes perfect sense. So then they join a program, or they start to make changes, and they say, you know what, I'm going to start changing my food. I'm going to start changing my eating habits. I'm going to start changing my movement habits. And they start to feel better. So they do that today. They make a couple of changes and they feel better. Then tomorrow they make a couple of changes and they start to feel even better. And they continue this process, and then all of a sudden, boom, day 4 hits, day 5 hits, birthday party, had some cake. Then I went to a fast food restaurant. Now I had some of that. And then before you know it, now they're back in the trenches again. And then they go in the trenches, and all of a sudden they're like, okay, hold on. I'm going to try it again. And they go right back onto it. Make some changes. I feel better. Make some changes. I feel better. And then boom. So it's like this binary on, off. Hey, I tried. I fell off the wagon again. Right? You hear this verbiage all the time. So what causes that behavior, and how can you change that behavior so that it's not off, on, and it's just literally on, and that becomes the new normal?
Yeah, totally. This is such an important question. I see this in my community as well. And the answer is like distressingly nuanced. Like, I really wish there were a silver bullet for that, right? But, there kind of is, and it's like, it's an integrated answer, which is like, that person needs to be working a much stronger program on many levels than they're working, right? Like, the fact is that food is the first thing that you need to learn how to kind of handle when you decide to make this kind of change in your life. Questions of like, what do I eat, and when, and in what quantities, and for what reasons, blah, blah, blah. Like, that's the first thing you got to learn, and you got to layer that in. If you don't immediately follow that up with a lot of new lifestyle habits, like around prepping food, deciding in advance what you're going to eat, and then a lot of other lifestyle things like waking up earlier to make sure that you meditate, having a really solid morning routine, a really solid evening routine, and a really solid system of tracking so that you're sort of, finding ways to like measure and gamify what you're doing. And then if you don't layer in a bunch of support structures where you're like really in touch with other people who are on the same path as you, and you're in touch with them in regular ways, and then you're figuring out how to like do that deep inner work that like really tackles the reasons you used to eat addictively. If you don't follow it up with all those extra layers, you're sunk. But here's the thing. Food is the first thing in. It's the first thing you got to learn how to tackle, but it's the last out. Meaning, if you start to slip because life gets lifey and, like the in-laws are visiting and it's the holidays and it's this and it's that, right? The first thing to slip is your support structures. The next thing to slip is your daily habits, meditation and, nighttime routine and all that stuff, sleep and all that. If you don't notice as those things have slipped that you're on the downslope, the food is the last to go. Right? So there are cues before the food goes that it's about to go. And if you don't see that coming, you don't know how to pull yourself out of the downslope before you're in what I call the danger and destruction zone, right? So the pattern you just described, Cyrus, is I'm solid, I'm good, I'm crashing and burning. I'm solid, I'm good, I'm crashing, I'm burning. And what I say is like, look, some form of ebb and flow is life. Like, welcome to life, right? If you're expecting life not to get lifey, I don't know what planet you live on, but like, it's not this planet, right? So you got to know how to take this pattern and turn it into a sine wave that's like with an x-axis that's way above the danger and destruction zone, so that as you're ebbing down, you're noticing, I haven't called a supportive person in 3 days. My mother-in-law is driving me crazy. She's baking gluten-free stuff as if I can eat that and saying, you know, like, I'm like, mother-in-law, I don't, you know, organic crack is still crack. I don't eat it, right? Thanks. And like, you know, my boss is driving me crazy. I haven't meditated in days. And if you don't notice that the food's about to go, you're going to be in the danger and destruction zone by dinner time, right? Like, it's just going to happen. So it's a coordinated answer. It's like, basically the person who's doing this is not conceiving of the journey right, and they're not working anywhere near a strong program.
Okay, this is brilliant. I actually love what you just said here, because effectively what you're talking about is taking, you know, a pattern which is a very high amplitude. It's really high, then it's really low. It's really high, really low, and you're sort of like shrinking the amplitude and making a much more, you know, much more reasonable.
Yeah. So you're smoothing off the caps, you're raising the whole thing up, and you're pulling up before you've fallen so far down. Yes.
Okay, so let me play devil's advocate here for a second, because I think what you just said is actually very powerful, but a response that I think a lot of people give, and what I could also see myself saying in that situation is, okay, fine, I understand that I have to build all these layers such that I can be more aware of—
I like how you're like, layers.
I can be a little bit more aware of when my lifestyle might be, you know, on a downward pattern. But building in those layers and changing how I prep food and where I prep food and the logistics and how much I'm going to make, and am I exercising, and am I meditating, and am I taking a shower before I go to sleep, that can be overwhelming. And it's almost like it becomes so many things that you have to think about that at a certain point you're just like, you know what? I don't even care. I'm out. It's too much. I have other things to do. This is too complicated. I'm just going to do my own thing, right?
Yeah, totally. You know what my answer is to that?
What?
Great. Go do those other things. I'm not in the convincing business. You think this is hard? It is.
Yeah.
Welcome to having an addictable brain in the Western world in, you know, the 2020s. Like, it's not easy because there's addictive foods all over the place. And if you think being a crack addict in recovery is easy, this is worse. You're right. It's going to take a big commitment to recover. So if you hate that idea, go get in more pain. Like we're talking about people with diabetes, right? I was just on the phone with a friend of mine, and we were, you know, she and I are both identified food addicts in recovery. She's been my friend for 20 years on this path. And she was like, you know, I was just on the phone with my sister, and her husband has diabetes. And we're talking on the phone, and she's like, yeah, my husband has to learn to walk again. We're like, oh, well, why is that? Because he just lost some toes. And she's like, should I send a Bright Line Eating book for him? And she's like, no, he would never stop eating sugar. And to that I say, okay, you know, we all choose our hard.
Yeah. Like at Mastering Diabetes, Kylie likes to say you choose your choice.
Yeah, exactly, right? And so here's what I say, Cyrus, is there's enough people out there who are clear that they want an answer. Like, they're at the point where they're like, I don't care what I got to eat or not eat. Like, I will stand on my head in the corner and eat shoe leather and sing the Pledge of Allegiance if that's what it takes to get an answer. But would someone please just give me a roadmap that works? And I'm like, I'm your girl. And to the person who's like, but wait, I don't get to eat pizza? I'm like, enjoy your pizza on Friday night. I got nothing for you. Right. You know, like, you want an answer that like checks every box. If I want to eat everything I want to eat, and I don't want it to be hard, and I don't want to have to layer in good habits, then I'm like, call me when you have that answer, you know, like, right. I would love to know.
Yeah. I mean, I think you're actually hitting it on the head here, because one of the things that I ask people is I say, oh, how's that working out for you? You know, oh, I could never give up dairy. I could never give up sugar. Oh, great. How's that working out for you? Right.
No,
which is the response that you're giving in different words.